Welcome to Perfect Organism, the Alien Saga podcast. I am your host, Jaime Prater, and I'm joined by my co-hosts,
Patrick Green
and Christian Motzka.
That was a very sedated Patrick Green. That was the most sedated.
Wasn't sedate. That was quiet. I know. I don't know what that was all about. Because I'm excited.
I'm excited too. So there's been this big leak slash scoop, whatever, that dropped via the AVP Galaxy forums earlier today. A friend of mine, friend of ours, Bradley John Swadebeck, notified me, and they were linked to 3 different audition tapes from 3 different African-American actors performing a scene from what is reportedly Alien Romulus, or at least scripts for them to judge them to hire them for Alien Romulus. We're not really sure, but there's a lot to it. There's a lot in this scene, or these scenes, and I was really excited to kind of read it and talk about it with you guys.
Yeah, we should say what you said just now is worth re-pointing out, that we don't know if this actually is the script of the film. Like, we really truly don't. This could just be scenes to read. That's a very common thing on auditions, is you get a sequence of dialogue that is sort of similar. Because I mean, at the end of the day, when this was going out for auditions, somebody could have leaked this as well. So, like, you know, this might not be representative of the final film. That said, if it is representative of the final film, to me, this was actually an enormously spoiler-filled excerpt, like hugely spoiler-filled. And because if this is actually what we're going to see, like what it seems like we're getting is the setup for the entire film, basically, which is that there is this drifting Weyland-Yutani ship in low orbit, and that they're going up to investigate, and that might be the inciting event where everything sort of happens afterwards. But what a fascinating thing to get on a Monday morning.
It also is worth pointing out that while there are 3 African-American actors auditioning for this role, this may not be the role that they would end up getting. I remember some of the cast of Aliens talking about how they had all read for either Hicks or Hudson. So, but this character's name is Bjorn, and there's another character named Rain, and then an android character named Andy. So that's more information than we had previously. And interestingly, I don't know why I assumed that all 3 characters were male, but that's not necessarily true at all. What did you guys get from that?
I mean, I got for the first interview, or the first audition that I saw, there was a woman reading the lines to him. So, which I don't know any direction that they were given. I thought, well, this is interesting. Like, okay, there's a woman reading it to him, but it made me think, well, this could be anything. This could be anyone. But someone had said recently that it looked like this role was specifically for an African-American person, but I don't know where they got that information. But yeah, I do find it interesting and funny that the android is called Andy. I like that.
Did you like Andy's joke?
It was very Raised by Wolves, which is, I saw somebody pointed that out on AVP forums as well, that it reminded me a lot of the father jokes that he keeps kind of trying out on that show, which, you know, that's one of those things that could be corny in a way that's distracting, or it could work. It depends. I'm sure Michael Fassbender delivering a joke like that would do an amazing job of making it feel sort of like we were talking about on Shoulder of Orion yesterday. Kind of like, you know, when Love asks Kay a personal question and she does it in a way that's very awkward, it kind of reveals a lot about what synthetics, or, you know, in that case, replicants experience. So that might not be corny in the context of the movie. In the context of this, it was. I will also say, though, you know, this is a fascinating window into the audition process that people go through. And as an actor in a former life, I did a lot of this stuff. So what in the first video, the guy who's delivering the lines, the guy who's trying out for the part, is reading with what sounds like a producer or like a casting agent or something, just somebody, because she doesn't feel until the end particularly kind of into it. It's like she's kind of just reading the lines for him to kind of give back. So again, we can't read too much into that about gender or whatever. And then in the second one, it's you know, he pre-recorded his own voice and just transposed it down a little bit. So we don't really know. This is all speculation, as everything with this film has been to date. But what we do know is tone, right? Because they're not going to give them a script excerpt, even if it's fake, that has nothing to do with the movie in terms of the tone that it has, right? And the sort of vibe, because they want to see if somebody's a good fit. And the tone and the vibe of this are really cool, I think. It feels very kind of Truckers in Space to me. It feels very much like, you know, people kind of going about their lives, and it's kind of hard scrabble, but it's not heightened kind of prosody. You know, I think what do you guys think about that? Like, this feels pretty alien to me.
Absolutely. There was a very um, almost a humdrum, or these are the problems that we have. These are the terrible things that are going on, but they're not. It wasn't that heightened. It was an everyday situation, and not a positive one either, which again ties back to Alien. Of these are shit jobs these people are doing.
In terms of the jobs, they do seem like shit jobs. And what was interesting, I was trying to figure out, are they like scrap? Like what is their job? So they see this derelict Weyland-Yutani vessel floating somewhere. So what are they actually doing? Are they on space cleanup?
They're talking about putting a tower down, or there's some sort of a building. I think they're building a colony.
Okay.
And it's like a mile up, right? It's like a big tower.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which could be like a docking station or something. Or I mean, we really don't know. But there are people involved somehow in building things and in doing something with derelict vessels. Right. Yeah. Like there's maybe kind of construction, colonization, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there was a reluctance to report the information, to report having found this thing. And you get that that Parker, like, it's not our job. It's, I don't want to have anything to do with that.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving how it feels. I'm loving that it feels familiar. And certainly there was a little bit of the Parker vibe going on. I also like the way that these actors read these lines. It wasn't typically, sometimes in the Hollywood system or whatever, the studio system, when you have these Black characters, they make them a little bit more stereotypical, like street talking, jive talking, which is, to me, does a disservice to them. One of the brilliant things about Parker is that he wasn't that. He was just himself. His best friend was Brett, and they were on the ship to do a job. And the readings, the way these guys read this script really reminded me of that they were kind of pulling away from the stereotypes. I just like that they're delivering these lines as people and not as like caricatures.
Yeah, me too. There's other clues in this as well. And again, we don't know if this is the shooting script, so take everything with a grain of salt. But we do see references to Wei-Yu, right, in it. So it seems like Weyland-Yutani is a company at this point, which places this sometime after the events in Prometheus and presumably Covenant. So like that's an early clue there, because the companies had merged, and because this is, they've been around long enough to have derelict technology floating around, right? To be known and to be abbreviated. That's the other thing too. The fact that they refer to it, with this kind of shorthand, is, I think, evidence that like people kind of know what Weyland-Yutani is. It's like, saying Mickey D's instead of McDonald's, right? So everybody kind of knows what Wei-Yu is. So that's another little clue, I think, into this world and into when it takes place. This also, it's worth, and I think this also, I feel like I'm stealing a lot from the AVP Galaxy forum on this, because I think I read this there too. But this could also be indicative of the ship being related to the Covenant. Like this could be the actual Covenant that's been floating out that David was on, or Walter rather, or whoever, I guess David. So that's a really interesting other window into this, is like, if they were to actually link this back, this could be a way to kind of continue the prequels. I very highly doubt that. Like, I would say there's a 10% chance of that happening, but there is, as we know, an unresolved floating Weyland-Yutani derelict vessel out there, right, from the films, that has not been resolved yet. And who's to say it's not necessarily the Covenant, right?
There's more than one. There's another ship that's floating around out there, the Sulaco, that ejected Ripley and Newt, just floating in space. It could be the Sulaco. That would be a little bit more of an exciting. I mean, but Covenant has left it bad. I don't know. It could be anything, but I like the idea that it's the Sulaco as opposed to the Covenant.
Would you describe it as a Weyland-Yutani vessel instead of a colonial marine vessel? You could. Do they really? I saw WY. I don't remember hearing anyone say Wei-Yu, because that's very specific to the Aliens Colonial Marines video game. That was some lingo that they'd invented. I'd be curious if that got passed on. Am I mishearing it?
I remember specifically the first guy said Wei-Yu, and I remember that because I clocked it. I was like, ooh,
And another guy said Wayland Yutani specifically.
Yeah, one of them said Wayland Yutani. Yeah.
They did their homework. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of homework, we looked all three of these actors up on the IMDb, and they all have credits. They're all, established people in Hollywood. They're not big names yet, but it adds a little extra validity that these were audition tapes, and we can get into that, like why were these leaked. But this Sulaco idea, Jamie, is very interesting to me. I'm switching back to that because it really does. It opens up the window of when this film could be taking place. So that's really cool.
And with Covenant, was Wayland Yutani a thing yet?
Yeah.
At that point?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just didn't pick up on that for whatever reason. And Covenant was 10 years after Prometheus, like within the timeline of the film. Okay, so
Right.
within that time, Wayland Yutani had merged. Okay.
Yeah. And also, but the Sulaco is not a Wayland Yutani vessel, is it? It's just.
Well, Alien 3 implies that Wayland Yutani makes the vehicles. We see a Wayland Yutani logo when she's accessing the black box.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
And then the company comes in on their own ship, the Patna, which is a disarmed Conestoga.
Right. Which is the same class.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? That's part of the fun of this, is we really truly, and we also could be talking about nothing, because this could just be a scene excerpt that was, from that they just wrote up for auditions. But then that does lead to a question that Christian just raised, which is like, why are we getting this? Like, why is this being released right now? To me, like, it just doesn't feel like a studio plant, because if it's like such a low fanfare. I mean, it's their Vimeo links with 30 views, like that's not like a big, you know what I mean? And also the links, the leaked, or not leaked. I mean, they're not even leaked. They've actually been out for a week already. Like, they've been sitting on Vimeo. And in that time, there was no press generated about it. There's no fanfare. The actual audition tapes themselves don't say anything other than like for Alien Project, So it feels to me like these are just auditions that were put on Vimeo for the producers to see and to like review. And somebody put the dots together and saw that these were audition tapes for this new film. And that's why we're seeing it. And maybe that they were supposed to be submitted as unlisted links or something, and they just didn't do that. But it feels to me very much like this is not supposed to be a big, like, here's like bait, go for it kind of a moment. But what do you guys think about that?
Jamie, you go first, because you have some thoughts.
Well, to me, it does seem like it might be a studio, because because of how it's done. It's done with very little fanfare. Like you said, those links have been up there for a while. I feel like when a studio is going to do this, they're going to do this quietly. They're not going to make this big, huge deal. Like they're not going to kind of wink at themselves. They're going to, when studios have leaked things in the past, they make it seem like it's this underground rogue person posting these links, when in fact it's just someone who works for them to drum up some organic fervor and excitement, which is exactly sort of what's happening. Although today, the day it's breaking, it's President's Day here in the States. A lot of people are away from their computers. They're not in their homes. So it's been pretty quiet in terms of response. It'll probably take off a little bit more tomorrow when the week starts up again. But yeah, I'm thinking it's a studio thing, because it wouldn't do the actors any good to post those like Christian was saying earlier. Like, why would an actor do this? He might sabotage his career by posting an audition video. And most of the time, the studios are going to be like, this is, there's an NDA involved. You can't post this. You can't even talk about this to certain people. But then someone took the videos and posted them. The only people who would have, in my experience or in my knowledge, would have access to these videos are the studios. They're the ones who record it. You can't even record on your end, or they won't let you record on your end. So that's what I think. I could be completely wrong though.
I think that these were recorded on their personal systems and just sent in as links. And Christian, I want you to go in a second, but just before I forget, I think that they all have the same agent, and I think the agent posted the links for the studio and just didn't do it right. Personally, I don't know. Christian, what do you think?
Well, one of the three gentlemen says who represents him. I can't remember if the other two do. I'm sort of split between the two, because I don't understand how three different people, unless what Patrick just said is true, that if they had the same agent and the agent messed it up, I think it would be a career limiting choice for an actor to release this, especially if there's any sensitive information in this piece of script. It just seems very weird. In the end, I guess it's just what we want to do with it. If it excites us or it makes us more intrigued, then that benefits the film regardless. There are no gigantic spoilers, I thought. It wasn't like it's the moment when the main character dies and they're rehearsing their reaction to it or something. That's a very lukewarm response because I'm not sure where to go with it.
I still stand by the fact that to me, I think this is not actually the movie at all. I think if it were, there would have been action taken a week ago to get this off of Vimeo. Like I feel like Fox would have, or Disney would have, stepped on this thing already. I think this is just audition sides that are being sent in on a script that you can choose from. And I think these three people might share representation, and that's sort of what happened here. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if these are gone within 2 days. But I think if they're not gone, in my opinion, lends further credence to the idea that this is just random dialogue that feels like the movie, and that's it's not actually the film. Because again, to me that those are big spoilers in there, because we didn't even have any idea how this was taking place, if there was going to be another beacon that they were going after. Like, we didn't know anything about it. Less than we know about the Hawley series. The Hawley series, we already have concept art. We have this idea of corporations and AI. Like, we know a lot about that series already. But this Romulus, or whatever it's going to be called, has really been a closed system. And but now, if this is real, like, we do know why it seems there's an inciting event. We do know that the android character dies in this inciting event, or gets shot at least. So, if this is the actual movie, when we see the movie, we're going to know what's going to happen to that android character. We're also going to know that if they're going to go up in this ship, somebody's going to get in the way of this Bjorn character, and Bjorn's going to react by shooting the android. So, you know what I'm saying? It's just, it's not like that's the end of the world. It's not like, Darth Vader and Empire Strikes Back or something, but it's a spoiler, I think, if it's real.
It could be. With callbacks, again, I just always have to say that I'm not an expert on anything, but I know how some callbacks work sometimes, which is they give you a bland script, a bland read, and you read it, and based off of hundreds of other people reading it, they call you back. And when they call you back, it means they're interested. And then when in that process, sometimes they give you a script from the project they're actually working on. So I think that this is possibly real from the movie itself. For them to have that much to work with tells me that these are callback auditions, that they're like, okay, we liked what we saw, we're going to give you something a little bit more familiar. What do you know? And so maybe they researched the Alien series. I don't really know, but I do feel like it's the real deal. But if at the same time, I don't feel like they're spoilery. Like, all we know is there are these guys working on this thing, and they see a ship. That's kind of the setup. That's the setup for the movie, perhaps. But that's it. That's all we know. And then I think that there's later on, someone's has something on their face. I think there's a moment where there's a face hugger or something like that.
They're not clear, but that is definitely the implication. I agree with Patrick. I had forgotten that there was the shooting of Andy. But again, look at Alien Resurrection, you guys. A lot of people get shot and come right back. No big deal.
That's true. We don't know. But I did say, if these are callbacks, I've now looked at Alien Resurrection twice in the last week, and I want to take a break from doing that. So if typically callbacks, you have line readings with a partner, you do scenes together. And that is usually, I don't know about post-COVID, because I haven't acted in anything in a long time, but pre-COVID, you would always go there to do that. Like, you would be reading it with somebody who was already cast a lot of the time, or with somebody else who was kind of a finalist for something. They're trying to get a sense of, chemistry and dialogue, but also screen testing people and having them in some kind of simple get up, so it feels sort of like the outfit you're going to wear. But this really, you can even see, I think in the second tape, he has a kind of a walk around in his kitchen or his living room. This is just people sitting at home with a camcorder. So I think these are just blind auditions where they're just sending it in. Personally,
second guy is definitely unsubtly letting everyone see him from all angles when he does that.
Well, that's the point. And it is, you have to do that. Because they have to know what your build is. They have to know how you walk, they want to see that stuff.
Yeah. So in the end, I think people should view this while they can, because it may get taken down, but take from it what Patrick was saying of, this is the tone. This is This is how they want this character anyway to come across on screen, of being belligerent, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, things are not good. The details that we have from the script show that it's not a good situation. And that's perfect for Alien. That's the point. We're moving away from the starry-eyed optimistic scientists and back to more of the core characters.
Which
I
is
like it.
exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And if by chance it is a Sulaco, it connects us to the larger world. But if it's the Covenant, there's also a lot of implications there as well, because you have thousands of people, colonists still in cryo, and you have those little baby face huggers or whatever they are in the little drawers. So there's a lot that they could work with. But it also really feels, in terms of the texture of the dialogue and the scene, it feels like Alien. It feels gritty. It feels dirty. The people, even the dialogue feels like the dialogue of real people, which I think is a nice breath of fresh air, because at the end of the day, at least for me, I know Alien is a lot of different things for a lot of different people, but I also feel like the films themselves, it's not just a film about, Ripley battling the alien. It's a film about, or films about, us dealing with our own humanity in the darkest times. And it's not really about claustrophobia. It's not really even about the creature. Those things are representative of larger things, of larger issues in our lives that we have to deal with. So if as long as they know that, I'm really excited about this.
And you're both absolutely right that even if this is just random dialogue that has nothing to do with the real movie, we know one thing for sure, which is the tone that they are going for. And that in itself is a big revelation today. So even if we discount everything that happened, we know something about what this is going to feel like. And what it's going to feel like feels very authentic to me. And I think that's an exciting thing to learn. So very cool.
Agreed. Well, with that, I think that's a wrap. We just wanted to update everyone and get together and cover this breaking news, as I'm sure it will unfold. And AVP Galaxy will release their own coverage of this later on. So we'd love to hear what you think.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.